And other objective is how to solve multi-step problem. So now, let me go over the homework which many of you have attempted, and you will now have a second chance to do a better job to get an improved score. Okay, we start with the first homework. Do you have your handout? Do you have this homework? Yeah. All right. Now, step number 1 is to make a list of known and unknown. So you go here under this table, and then for the known, you enter those values. There are 2 numbers. So now, enter these numbers, this one, 560N, in the first cell. Enter the second number, including the unit, on the second cell. Go ahead and do so in your warm-up. Okay. So, in your warm-up, you have 2 numbers. Now that we have entered them, you identify what they are. To find out what they are, you go to the example on the book, which will tell you what they represent. So, to find out what these are, go to the example on the book, find out what they represent.
I can't bend my feet. No. I don't know why. I'm thinking like you throwing pencil frame.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going straight to the write-up. 5, 4. Any further violation will result in a write-up. 3, 2. I'm now on the write-up page. And what I will do is that I will skip on the warning from now on for the next 15 minutes. For the next 15 minutes, any violation will result in an immediate write-up. I have the write-up page in front of me. I will now log in, and then for the next 15 minutes, any violation will result in an immediate write-up without warning, starting now. I'm in. I have the page up and running. So be patient with me for the next 15 minutes so I can finish this so we can move on. We start with the first column, which are the known variables. In the known, what you do is you copy down these numbers under the known. So every time you see a homework problem and you see the numbers, be sure to copy down the number and the unit. Once you have copied out the number and the units, the next step is to identify what they represent. I can still hear noise coming over there on that table. So when you see the numbers, you write them down. Now, to find out what they represent, go to the textbooks. In this case, it's on page 377. If you go to your textbooks, you will find out what they represent. In this case, if it's an ant, it represents forks. So, what you do is you go back to your examples, and you know that when it has a letter ant, that represents the force. So that's equal to F, and what is that? That's the force of gravity. When you see that Newton over meter in the example, that represents K right here. So you go back to your example and you say the second known is K. That's your value for K. I'm hearing noise. So now you have 2 known in your column. Your next step is to identify the unknown. For the unknown, look at the question mark. How much is each spring compressed? So in this case, if you're not sure, once again, go to the example. In the example, they also show you a similar scenarios, and then from that, you can determine that the unknown is X, the amount of compression for each spring, and then the second unknown is potential energy, and it's right here in your questions. So now that you have the list of known and you have the list of unknown. So I will now check, make sure you have this list of knowns and unknown on your handout. You should put out the force and the constant K as the known, and then the X and the potential energy as the unknown. I have 10 more minutes. So let's not try to, let's stay focused so we can move on to the next item. I'm hearing noise again. So now that you have the list of knowns and unknowns, you're almost done. What you do next is to read the question carefully. It said right here that it has 2 springs, not 1 spring, but 2 springs. So what you have to do is that on the next step, when you apply the equations, if the force of gravity is 560 N, then when you apply the equation here, do you use the entire 560 for both springs, or do you use half of it for each spring? Half. So what you do is that you say, okay, this is the entire force of the persons, and because I'm working at one spring at a time, so you say per spring is equal to half that number. That's the key thing. So when you calculate the X, you use only half of that number. Remember now, the person is sitting on both springs, and the person has a force of 560 N. So if you want to determine the force per spring, you take half of that numbers, and that gives you F per spring. So now you can use the equation F equal to Kx. With this equation, F equal to Kx, because you are looking for X, so you want to isolate X. So what you can do is you can divide K on both sides, therefore X equal to F divided by K. This is homework, the first problem. This is homework 24.
Why did you say 53?
It's an assignment. Assignment is something we do in class. And homework is something we do at home.
Oh, really?
So now,
Homework 24?
this is homework 24, and you're looking at the first problem, homework 24, and you should see by now that we are trying to identify the value of X. Okay. So now, 10 more minutes. Patient now, 10 more minutes. So now we know that we take half of the value, and then we divide it by K, and do we know the value for K? It's right here. So that's how we calculate the compression. A person is sitting on 2 springs, so we take half of that force, and then we divide it by the constant, and that will give us the compression on each of those springs. And that's it. Once you're done with the application of the equation, you isolate the unknown, then you can plug in the numbers, but you're not done yet. Now I will scroll down, but you can still see this, so don't worry, it's still on the page. So when you finally plug in the numbers, the value for the compression, what is the unit when you compress something a distance? What is the unit for distance? Is it kilogram? Is it second? Is it meter? Meter. So when you finish with the answers, check on the unit to make sure that it corresponds with what you're looking for. In this case, should be in terms of distance, meter or centimeter. And now, For those who takes one further step, they will get the full 100% credit. And this is the final step. If you look at these numbers, how many significant digits are there in this one? 560 has how many significant digits? 3. If you look at the constants, how many significant digits in the constant K? 2. So your answer should have how many significant digits? Your answer should have 2. Your answer should match up with the least amount of significant digits. So if F has 3 significant digits and K has 2, then which one should your answer have? 2. Your answer should match with the least amount of significant digits in your calculation. So if anyone able to round off the result to 2 significant digits, they get a perfect 10. And that is how we do our homework. We start with a list of known and unknown. We move on to the equation. We isolate the unknown. We check the unit. And then we check for the significant digit. And this is how you can get a perfect score in both homework and in the exam. So now we have 2 more minutes left. What we do now next is that you can check on a unit for X. If you're not sure, go to your textbook, find out what they use in the textbook and see whether your answers would match up with the one in the textbooks. And now, exit ticket, complete these 2 columns. Do you know how to relate force F to the distance, F equal to kx, to the potential energy, P equal to 1/2 kx squared? Do you know how to solve a physics problem using multiple steps? Identify the known and the unknown, isolate the unknown, apply the numbers, check the result. Once you're done with the exit ticket, show me the exit ticket and the result in your handout, and then you can proceed with lab 14. With lab 14, I have the material. You can go ahead and get a laptop and complete lab 14. As a reminder, you have 3 things coming up. You have the science fair, which is due on Friday. You have the homework and the lab, which is due after spring break. And I will tell you more about the lab and the homework. For the science fair, what you do is you have to collect the data. Okay. If you're not here on Friday, then you can just submit it online. So now, please return to your chair. I will come by, take a look, and then, yes, I can check whether you're ready to go for the laptop. The science fair, the data is just the data. The data is due on Friday. Okay, Jill. Okay, Jill, you're not done with this yet. I need you to go ahead and